Welcome back to the Out on a Limb podcast with Will and myself, Allison, and Samantha. And today we're going to talk about the energy of abundance. I'm not going to call her out, Christina, but one of our viewers, one of my favorite people, actually commented about, having this topic explored a little more deeply. I think we've touched on it in a few episodes, but talking about money and issues around money, especially for practitioners, and abundance and the money mindset.
So can I interject just for a second? So for those listening out in the audience out there, this is a audience question that has been posed in our comments. So when we say, if you'd like some topic covered, please put it in the comments. This is the result. So just putting that out there.
Christina asked, and so we're answering.
That's right.
One of our number one fans.
Yep.
All right. So let's talk about abundance first of all.
Sure.
Because, abundance is about more than just money.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we don't want to equate those two things because they're definitely not the same thing. So I want to start off with my favorite definition of abundance that Bashar, we've mentioned him a few times, has given. And that is having what you need when you need it. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yep.
Underscore the when.
Yeah. When, exactly. Doesn't mean having huge supplies stored away or lots of money in the bank. And it also doesn't mean getting just money. It means what you need for your journey.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. What do you guys think? What is abundance to you all?
Yeah. What is abundance to me? Well, I mean, it's simply put, it's what we've been experiencing well before our awakening. I mean, so for example, it's, it's those moments when, when you're least expecting, we'll say, any income coming in, and all of a sudden, there's bills coming due and there's a check in the mail, from some refund or something, or somebody pays for your meal that you're unexpecting, and these are all examples that have happened to us over time. The one I love, and again, I know we don't want to associate it with money, but that's how for myself, at least, how it's kind of come into play. And I think that's because I have a kind of a hang up with, am I going to have enough money? Am I going to have enough money to pay my bills? So that's right. It's kind of my hang up, it's not Allison's, it's mine. And so I have to be constantly reminded, hey, dummy, just trust. We're going to provide it to you. So one of my best stories behind that, and I'll say my biggest trust one that came in. For some of you know that myself and Allison started a nonprofit for veterans, and we had a number of volunteers. And one Christmas, we decided we're going to throw a Christmas party for them. And so we out-of-pocketed. We didn't have any money in the coffers of the nonprofit. We just said, you know what? Our volunteers deserve this. So we took them to a restaurant downtown in Charleston, and we provided some door prizes and whatnot. And when the bill came, we paid it, obviously. And the bill was something like $173.43 for the meal. Mm-hmm. And we were like, you know what? They deserve this. This is what they're going to get. So we drive home and reach into the mailbox, get the mail. And in the mail, there was literally a refund check for $174.52. It covered everything but a few pennies worth. And so that was one of those moments where you just go, all right, universe, I get it. Trust. And so from that point, I have trusted. I have, tried to trust, because it isn't going to be an easy journey along this path of understanding what abundance is. But it is, when you framework it in, it is exactly what you need when you need it. It makes it a little bit easier to understand, and it makes it a little bit easier to digest, swallow. So I think to encapsulate what I was just saying is my hang up is having enough money to provide or, pay bills and all that stuff. And I think that's everyone's kind of little area.
I think especially for men.
Yeah.
who
Because
are
we're
the
providers.
breadwinners.
Right.
The self-worth.
Right. We're the providers. But what I've realized now is I just got to shut up and trust the universe is here to provide for me.
Well, you can whine, but that would be unnecessary.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I do whine. I mean, right. I do plenty of whining. You can ask Allison. But there's another point in that. I don't want to go too long-winded on this, but there's another point of this. It's worth, or wealth. What's the difference between abundance and wealth? Because I think we can go into another track of that too. And I think a lot of people believe that their wealth is their financial gain or their financial status. And yes, at some point it probably was my thought as well. But the more and the further I go down this path, and the further I understand about myself and the work that I'm doing, and I have a different understanding of wealth, and that is, it's not the accumulation of things, it's not the accumulation of money, but it's the presence of self. It's the presence of how I feel about myself doing what I'm doing, and it's the presence of self of being in communion with others. And
that reminds me of good fortune. Good fortune is being fortunate, and we feel very fortunate to be doing this work. We feel fortunate to have good friends like yourself and the people that surround us. We feel good fortune to have the things that we have, the beautiful home, our children who are amazing. We are just very fortunate.
See, it reminds me of Christmas Carol. How, not Marley, who is it? The guy who was the clerk. Ratchet.
Yeah.
Was that?
I think so.
Oh,
I know
bad.
what
Here,
you're
give an
talking about.
example.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
But he was wealthy for the friends and family that he had gathered. And that's, there was abundance, but he felt the wealth of he felt like the richest man, because you're surrounded by people who love you and stuff. So,
So what examples do you have of getting exactly what you need when you need it?
So I've always used the expression, I don't know that this is a good expression. Like maybe I think that I should lose it, but I would always say, well, I'm never given the money without the expense upon which I need to pay. It's try not to end it with a preposition. But anyway, so it's, uncanny how all of a sudden, $1,000 will come through. Well, I have a bill for $950 right here,
Right.
So I tend to get it before. So it's exciting. And then there's the thing. So, you could say that I'm prepared for something bad to happen whenever something good happens. And I try not to do that, but I think the universe prepares me ahead for this thing that's coming up.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting because my husband and I were in counseling, and we got into an interesting conversation with our marriage counselor. She was like, there's three people in the relationship. There's, the husband, the wife, and the budget. Okay. The budget was, I'm thinking the Holy Spirit, or I'm thinking, there's this other third entity, the communion of you two.
Right.
But she's like, no, it's the budget. And she started arguing about how the budget was, needed to be balanced and all this has to happen. And I said, well, no, there's no such thing as a budget because the money will be there for whatever you need. And she's like, well, Samantha, that's probably why you have some strain on your financial part of your relationship. And I said, no. It's like, that's like looking at lack. And I refuse to look at lack. So I do not have a budget. We know what our expenses are. And we know that when we need the money, it'll be there, or we will have resources to draw upon.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And she started to disagree with me again. And I couldn't believe my husband he pipes up and he goes, I have to side with Samantha. I didn't used to live this way at all, but I've learned that whenever we have the need for the money,
it's there.
Yep, it comes. And so I've learned, yes, it stresses me out, but I'm much more relaxed about it now. So the budget is not a part of their
Yeah.
relationship, you know, and it was amazing. Unfortunately, I feel like I broke the man on that one, because it was nice how he always had everything prepared and put away. But he's, you know, he's gotten a little bit more
Yeah.
used to the flow. But my other example is that, I've been doing a trust walk lately. You know, people do nice things for you all the time. They want to.
Mhm.
And we tend to go, oh no, don't worry about it. You know,
Good point.
and my mom's famous for just going, oh, no, I can't take that from
Yep.
you, even though she's starving, you know, not starving, but, you know, needs
Right.
something, whatever. And so I knew that I wanted to travel, want to take some trips this coming spring. I'd hope that it would work out. And I've spent this spring, you know, 2 weeks out of the past 3 months going on trips
Yeah.
that I didn't pay for.
Mhm.
And, you know, each one was, you know, a gift, or you could say it's an energetic exchange, or, you know, and one was with my husband, but there was a plus to it.
Mhm.
And then one where my mom, it was funny because my mom really wanted me to go to Africa, and my sister really thought that my mom wanted me to go to Africa. Each of them wanted me to go to Africa to be there, to experience it, because
Sure,
they knew, they were
yeah.
so excited for me. That was their desire, their wanting. And out of it, I was able to go on this amazing trip, but it's not that I sat there and
Right.
worked for it and saved. So, you know, it's abundance is this thing that is, you know, it's not this monetary thing. It's, I don't know. I get into another concept with it where, so wealth or whatever, it's, you can't equate it to money, and it should just, money's an artifact that we
Yeah.
came up with as a means of exchange. So if it were just exchanging goodwill all the time,
Yeah.
then we'd be taking each other on trips and doing nice things for each other and providing food or whatever. But my other thing is how the gurus, you know, and I never always thought this was so, but now I get it. It's abundance is really the idea that, you know, you're really satisfied, feel whole with everything you have around you. And you know that there's things around you that would be lovely. Sure, a brand new car would be cool, but now the satisfaction of knowing that that's out there and that people have that, but do I really need or want that? And it's like, I know what it would feel like to have the new car, and that's all I need to know now is the
Right.
feeling, and be satisfied with embodying that feeling, because I can recreate that feeling
Sure.
going for a walk.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of the secret of the gurus is, you know, they don't have the material need of it. They've learned to
Yeah.
go right to the emotion.
Yeah.
That's a good point, the emotion of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's what people talk about when they talk about manifesting, is feeling the emotion of it as if it already
Yeah.
exists for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Which is a hard thing when you're starting out.
Yeah.
And so you play games and you learn how to do it.
Or
Yeah.
especially if you're really in need, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
from your perspective, how do you look at abundance?
Well,
I mean, did
Like-
Bashar's his definition? What's
his definition is perfect for me
Yeah.
because that's what it's about, trusting
Mhm.
that you know that when you get to the point of need, and we've had it work both ways,
Yeah.
the way you talked about where we get a check immediately after, and we've also gotten a windfall.
Yeah, that's true.
And all of a sudden the car will break down or whatever. And you can look at it like, oh my God, I had all this money and I have to now pay for my car to get fixed. But the point is, like you said, I have wow, this is great. I have the money. Look at this.
Yeah.
I have the money to fix my car. So it's all in perspective.
Yeah. And when you can start to shift your perspective into that viewpoint, it takes so much weight
Mhm.
off of you
Mhm.
that, I mean, stress, it takes that stress right off of you, knowing that, you know what, I'm not going to worry about my car breaking. Because I mean, some people do, because they have cars that might be in disrepair. But, you know, if you focus on it breaking, it's going to break, you know, the manifesting thing.
Yeah.
But if you just allow it to be, and you realize that at some point it may, and then
Likely it's going to, things break.
Yes,
Things like
yeah.
you got to replace stuff. So, you know, yeah, why dwell on something that is logically going to happen at some point?
the inevitable, yeah, that's going to take place, right? But if knowing that your agreement with the universe is to have what you need when you need it, meaning you're going to have the money to fix your car, or maybe even better, a new car or a better car or something, or have maybe the car breaks and you don't have the money to pay for it, but yet you have a number of friends and family that can take you to and from where you need to go without question. You have to kind of reframe the box that you're in of how you understand things. I mean, and how you look at the world that you're operating in. And so it's not always about, oh, my car broke, I need $300 to fix my car. Well, $300 might not be there right then, but yet you've got 4 or 5 other people that are willing, without question, to take you, do things for you. Utilize that, because back to what you were saying,
if you allow it,
because if somebody offers you something and you don't accept it, well, then now you're kind of shifting a balance of energy, and that might be their way of receiving abundance by giving you something. And if
you're denying them this beautiful benefit of giving. We know how good it feels to give, right? And you're denying somebody that feeling of being able to give you something.
Well, I have a good friend who said to me, the one who provided that trip, who said to me, you know what, this is the coolest thing that I can do this now, because I couldn't do this in my earlier years, and I can do it now. And just the smile on her face and the genuine, the thing is we go back to discernment, but it's, understanding, being clear with the energy, and, and being clear in the giving, understanding the giver, and also in how you're receiving it. Because if you receive something like that and then you feel guilty, or you feel like, okay, now I have to perform, I have to be this or whatever,
or I have to give back. You have to in kind. I have to reciprocate something back. And then
and the flow will naturally happen, because there always needs to be that energetic balance. But it'll just it'll happen. So
one of the other things that came to my attention recently, I've been reading Power versus Force by David Hawkins, which is really interesting because it came into my awareness, 5 years ago on the beginning of my journey. And I looked at it and I'm like, oh my God. And I put it down, and I've heard a lot about it, and I understand these levels of consciousness, but I wanted to reread it and really get a good grasp of it. So I picked it up again, and it makes a heck of a lot more sense now. But
more of a framework now.
But in that, he gives an example of this idea of poverty. And I know we've heard people say things like a poverty mindset, but he said, truly, it's a consciousness level. It is a consciousness level. So as people of different consciousness levels encounter, for example, a homeless person on the street, they view it from their consciousness level. Somebody might go, oh my gosh, what is this guy? And they'd get angry because they're on this lower consciousness level. They get angry, and what's wrong with this bum? He can't go get a job or whatever. And then somebody else might view it from a little bit more of a compassionate and want to help. Oh gosh, what can I do? Is there any homeless shelter around here? How can I help the person? Or then somebody else might view it even from a higher conscious level and go, oh, this is interesting that this person chose to incarnate into this body and into this experience and whatever. And you, not from an uncompassionate space, but looking at it from the overarching perspective of a contract, for example. And so if we look at it that way, it's really all about consciousness level. And I think that has a lot to do with how we view money and abundance as well. If we look at money as a tool to help others, to get what we need, or to negotiate in this 3D world, rather than being a slave to the money, or that, getting money for money's own sake, those are totally different consciousness levels.
And I'll agree with that, because I can only speak for myself, but not so much anymore, but for a very long time, and up to just not very recently, but recently, there's been a lot of fear that I've had around money, and a great deal of fear around money. And I think to some extent we all have that, but it's how we framework it and have perspective around it. For me, it was my perspective of it was, I'm one bad decision away from being that homeless guy. I'm one bad decision from being, ripped out of my house and my house being, gone, or being ripped from it.
Really bad decision.
You don't know how my mind works, but yes, I mean, but that's
worst case scenario.
right.
kind
I
of
mean,
guy.
I drive down the street and I'm like, I can empathize with that person because I feel as if I make one wrong decision, I'm going to be standing next to that person on the street, and it's all based around money. But now it's, through the universe showing me, hey, dummy, we got your back. Just calm down. That has been pushed aside and released out of my awareness. And so I think, it is that, I'll say, matter of perspective and consciousness level of where do you see yourself? How do you feel where you are at the moment, of acceptance, of your acceptance of what you're here to do, or what you're here to accomplish, or what you're here to
And again,
observe.
that whole trust issue comes right back in.
Yeah.
Because you're right, the whole societal paradigm is about fear anyway, and especially fear about money. I mean, again, as a counselor, what do? We make sure that our students are picking the best college so they can get the best job, so they can make the most money, so that they can have a happy life. So we
they have
equate.
so they can have the biggest student loan debt.
Well, now we understand that one does not equal the other. Yeah,
And certain professions, oh, honey, I don't think you should do that. You're not going to make a lot of money. And everything revolves around money, from little all the way up through adulthood. And so, that's what we've come to understand, right? But now let's shift the conversation into, for example, those of us who are practitioners, because a lot of the clients we see, and a lot of practitioners themselves, us included, when we start practicing, we have this issue with money. What am I going to charge? How much should I charge? Should I even charge? I'm doing spiritual work. Maybe I should be doing it for free. Feeling guilty about asking for too much money.
What about the people that you're charging too much and they can't utilize your services?
Yes,
That's always a
we're
big one,
eliminating
yeah.
people that can't, have a session because it costs too much. Whatever. So, how do you guys tackle that? How have you addressed that in your own life? Because I presume that you've gotten past that at this point.
Do you get past it? I don't know. Like I know I still wrestle with it sometimes. I'm learning the concept that what is considered expensive to one person is not, considered expensive to another person. And I'm always trying to catch myself, like I don't like to say, oh, that's cheap. No, it's not cheap. We know what cheap is. It's something that falls apart, that, it's like made poorly. It's inexpensive, but what's inexpensive to me is not inexpensive to someone else. And it shifts depending on, your consciousness mindset and the money that you have in the bank. Like I can throw $35 out on something and not think twice. But if it's $70, okay, there's a little bit more of a, a thought process. If it's 150, but that does not stay a constant for me. It's always shifting depending on all the circumstances going on around me. And, I've been around people who just say, well, it doesn't really matter. You just spend the money will come in, it'll be there. And I've learned that that's not necessarily true, because there's something about the whole spiritual ebb and flow, especially, we've talked about, how among light workers, practitioners, that kind of stuff, that if we had all this money that we just could go out and spend on everything we want, you don't have the creativity, you don't learn to go inside more, that you don't have the same, it's not the same growth at all. There's not growth.
That's a good point.
If you can throw the money at it. So there's there is a constraint for a very good reason. So anyway, that's kind of going off on a different tangent.
No, but I think it brings up this idea of respect for the money and what it can provide. Because if you're frivolous and you spend $500 on a meal for you and your spouse or something like that, whereas perhaps you could have given even half of that to somebody in need or used that in a more productive way, which is not to say you should deny yourself either.
Well,
but
I was
I
about
think
to say, you're setting up an argument right there.
but I think it's important to have respect and not just throw money willy-nilly here and there and buy whatever, like you said, just buying everything in sight. And I don't know, I think we're stewards of money. And when we talk about, what's that saying about to whom many gifts are given, much is required.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the same thing with the money. If you show the universe that you're responsible with it and you're using it in productive ways that are healthy for you and healthy for the universe and helpful for people, then more is going to come to you because you're responsible with it.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. And so we're talking about it as a tool.
Yes.
To like, and that's the whole tithing concept.
Right.
Is that, you tithe out a percentage and you're going to get that much more, that and more back because of,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But if you're just
makes sense.
wasting it on willy-nilly things that don't have a lot of importance, then I don't know.
Okay, so we go back to your original question, which I've kind of gone off on a tangent with that about setting how much. Well, it was kind of a bunch of different things.
Right. So let's talk then about it as a practitioner. How do you know what to charge, for example, and how do you know when to start charging?
I think that goes back to the, your conscious level, because if you sit there, like in the beginning, I mean, until you feel like people are generally smiling, going, yep, I'm getting it, good reading or good whatever, you kind of, you're learning the ropes.
Yeah.
And it's, the exchange is generally, to me, the exchange is, I'm going to do this reading for you. I'm asking you, would you, if it hits well, if it makes sense, would you do a review for me?
Right.
Because like you can't buy reviews. Like it's like they're so important. And so I think that that's a huge thing. But I think as you start setting your price, you need to understand first, it's not forever, wherever you start at.
Yeah.
And that you can't ask for more than what you feel you're valued at.
Right.
So if
less, you should not ask for less than your value either. If at some point when you've gotten your experience and you've done all of that, I think it's important to value yourself. Also, don't discount your value.
No, that's super important. So with the way I started off, I think $25, and I got really comfortable at $25, and I was like, okay, $45. And then I was like, okay, what, and each time it was a calibration thing.
Yeah.
It's like, what feels good to me now? 75 feels good. I remember when I jumped from 75 to 125, but I would offer a discount, to 95. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing? So now I'm upwards towards, 165 to 200. And the thing is that I'm very comfortable there.
Yeah.
Because I know my readings hit, but like when I do mediumship, for me, it's frustrating if I don't nail it every time, which it's everyone involved that creates that experience. Right.
Right.
But I know that it's a constant evolution, and where I am in my journey, I am not someone that is a $700 medium,
sure.
So I'm comfortable at the level that I'm at and what I'm charging. So it's always a calibration, and I find I'm very comfortable with that.
Yeah. And I think it also comes down to, we have to, as practitioners, it's, you mentioned it, we don't want to undervalue ourselves. We are providing a service, so our time is valuable. So, what I fought with myself for a long time is, somebody signs up for a mediumship session, one-on-one, or, maybe two people or a group or whatever. And in the back of my head, I'm like, I'm ready to give them a refund if it doesn't hit, right? I'm ready to sign off on the refund if it doesn't hit.
And I don't go there anymore.
So, right. But that's what I fought with for a long time. I'm like, what? That's a trust issue. But then I came to the realization, it's going to hit. It may not be to the caliber that I'm expecting it to be. The client gets exactly what they need. They're receiving. So at that point, it becomes, I'm providing a service. that's the adequate amount for that service.
Mhm.
But at what point do you then step that charge up? And that comes, for me, it comes with, you know, I don't want to say the caliber of session that's being provided, because
You're always doing your best.
you're always doing your
Yeah.
100%. It comes, you know, there's, it's hard to say, when do you raise that limit or raise that amount? I think it is, like you say, you honor that knowing, well, you know what? I think it's time we raise that price up. Then I go into the thing, well, now I'm outpricing some of my clients. So then I'm like, well, wait a minute. Okay, if I'm outpricing those clients, that's because there's a whole nother level of clients that I'm tapping into. And here's how I think about it. It's the how do I say this? So like you say, well, I was at, or you're willing to drop $35, no problem, but 75 or 70, I don't know.
Yeah.
What's the difference if it's the same product between 35 and 75? It's a perceived quality difference or quantity difference or whatever you want to look at it as, just based on the price. Some people look at it and go, oh, well, he only charges $199 for his sessions. He can't be that good.
Exactly.
All right. Are you going to pay $700? Okay. Well, then that's a whole nother layer of clients that you're going to be tapping into, because they perceive that it's a much better session. Mm-hmm. And now, again, this is just the views stated here are strictly the views of William Brown. You know, they look at a higher price and they think, oh, that's a great, that's a better, that must be a top-notch session.
We all have a tendency to
Sure
do
we
that.
do. Sure we do. We do that with what we buy at the grocery store. Okay, here's an apple for 25 cents. Here's an apple for $2. Oh, I'm going to buy the $2 apple because it must taste better.
Right. And so that's why on a practical level, I think we need to charge what we think our value is.
Exactly.
And you need to, again, for practical purposes, look at what is the going rate in your location.
Yeah.
Because a reading in New York City is not going to be the same as a reading in Charleston, South Carolina. It's just not going to be the same price. So you kind of want to be in that range, whether it's the upper range, lower, middle, however you want to do it. But you need to kind of be in the range for your location. That's one thing. And your expertise, your level of expertise. You do need to take that into consideration. And I think you also have to go within and check in with your guides, with your higher self, and see, does this feel comfortable for me?
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I really liked, I don't watch Lee Harris very often, but I know that I think he's a reputable channel.
Correct.
And no,
Lee Harris.
That's
He does
Lee Carroll.
Lee
I'm
Carroll,
talking about
sorry.
Lee Harris.
Yeah, he does energy.
He's
right?
from England also, I think.
Yeah.
He channels the Z's and whatever.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right.
But I did watch something of his where he was talking about pricing, and it was interesting because if we, like, even for $199 for a channeling session, there are going to be some people that can't afford that, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But like he said, we offer a whole lot of free things.
Mm-hmm.
We provide a whole lot of material, a whole lot of value, a lot of things on our website, inexpensive books, free channelings once a month,
And videos.
free podcasts.
Yeah.
We do all of these things to help the people. So there's different tiers for different people.
That's a good point.
And so those, like he says, because I don't know how much he charges for a session, but his sessions, that amount of money enables him to provide a whole lot more on the free level
That's
through his website and through these things he can give for free, right?
Yeah.
So that helps support this. So there are people who do want to pay $700 for a session.
Sure.
Okay, good on them. And then that allows you to do lower cost things for other people as well. I really like that mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, so that's been a big question of mine because when I do my life design coaching, okay, like that's 12 months, and now I'm going to break it down to 6 weeks because I found that people 12 weeks like is really challenging to stick with it. It's like they need a break and then they can sign up again. So I'm going to shift some of that stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, but if someone's doing life design, that's like $2,200. All right. And so it's like $185 a session. And it is really intense and fun and rewarding work. However, you could go to a psychologist who does something different. But you can find a psychologist around my area for $125. Granted, I am not a psychologist. I'm not trying to do what they do. This is very different work. But I was looking at that model going, I can have a few clients at this amount, or I could do group. And there's a synergy with group.
Yeah.
And you focus on fewer sessions, but then you're able to do so many other things with that group of people.
Yeah.
So this is something that I have been worrying in my head about for about 5 or 6 months now, really wanting to do. And I finally came down with, like I'm about to send out a newsletter, and I decided, because I see like 1111, 111 everywhere. And I know it's kind of a cute spiritual thing that people do, but it really felt like a good price to me that I'm going to do 111 a month for guaranteed 4 sessions. And I realized when I looked at it, I was like, oh my God, that's a savings of like $600 for 4 sessions with my, versus my life design stuff. And yet people, through the synergy of the group, people who are too shy to ask certain questions, some people will ask, some don't, and then I know that I want to grow that into doing a book club and doing meditations and doing all this other kind of stuff that makes more sense in the synergy of a group.
Right.
So then I started going, well, am I not charging enough there? And I started going through all this stuff, and I'm like, really, again, to me, there is a level like what David Hawkins talks about. There's a level of calibration.
Yeah.
And to me, I really want this group aspect, and I want it to be fun, and I want it to be just easy.
Yeah.
And so I've decided, I'm going to go for 111, and then anyone who doesn't sign up till later, it'll jump up just a little bit. Just not much, but just enough to honor the people who got on board. And I'm really, so it's to me, it's always a calibration thing of where I'm at, what I'm offering, what I know I want to offer. And so, yes, there is some of that, honoring what my full intentions are. And I know that if I'm receiving that energetic, the energy of the money, you could say it could have been goods, it could have been whatever, but if this is money, that it's going to free me up to feel like I want to do more. Let me provide more. So it's definitely a give and take. And it just seems like a good answer to me. We'll see how it goes.
So, even experienced practitioners come up to these hurdles every now and then with regard to when to change your pricing or, reevaluating or.
But I mean, even to the extent, and again, me, the way I, think about things is, even like when we offer, we offer stuff here at the Treehouse. Are we pricing it at the right price? Or we know a good price that works and has worked in the past, and we offer something at that price, and nobody signs up. It's like, okay, did I price that up too high? Did I? My brain starts.
Even though it could just be the energy of the moment or whatever. It's
right. I'm reading too much into it.
Or you put up our pontoon boat for sale, and it sells in 2 seconds with multiple people
so
dinging
that's a
you.
funny story. That's that. So here's the universe how that works. We sold a boat last summer, I guess it was, and we had just briefly talked about a rough number, very low. But I didn't think it was too low, but
it's like,
in any case, I put it up, and literally in like 20 minutes, I had 40 people on Facebook saying, I'll take it today. I'll take it today. I'll roll it off your driveway right now.
Bidding war.
Hello? And I'm like, oh boy, I think I screwed up. And so I called Al, and she's like, well, why'd you put that price? And I'm like, oh boy. So I instantly went back on, and I'm like, I'm sorry, that I reconsidering
the sale of our
this.
boat.
The family really wants the boat, that whole thing. So hopefully anybody that was involved in that's not listening to this. Anyway, I mulled on it for a little bit, and as I'm redoing the ad for it, 15.5 came up. That was the number. The first number was like 11.5. It's like, all right, I'll go with it. So that's the number that I put it out there, and instantly people are bidding for it.
However, it did start it
Yeah.
created a bidding war.
Yeah.
Oh, so it did.
So he
Yeah.
sold it for $3,000 more than he was asking for it.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
The universe was like,
crazy.
the universe literally was like, look, we got this. Hold my beer. I'll show you how much that boat's worth. So
I like that imagery. But it's like, did you not do the research?
I did, and
Wow.
literally everything in that class and in that age and in that size was around that $11,000 to $13,000 mark.
But yours was right here,
Wow.
convenient. People could come, whatever it was. Yeah.
So anyway,
It's
it's one of those things where, for me, what I'm learning is trust.
Mm-hmm.
Don't overthink it, and allow. Because like right now we're in a lull. We were talking about this before we went on air.
We always go through lulls.
Yeah, and right now we're in a point at which there's not a lot of clients signed up, and I'm not questioning. Well, a couple of things I'm questioning, but could it be that we've tapped out a resource,
Mm-hmm.
or did we price that too high or whatever? But
Are you really thinking those things still?
certain things, but now it's
Everything's going through his head.
right. Oh God, my head goes through all kinds of stuff. So right now
He comes from a long line of warriors,
Yes,
by
I
the
do.
way. He comes by it.
That's my lineage story.
Naturally.
I
Yes.
own it. That's
Okay.
who I am.
Yes.
But it's but now it's coming down to the point of going, nope, you know what? I'm just gonna just relax, allow it to be, because like we were talking earlier, we don't know what's on the horizon,
Yeah.
and we don't know what's coming up in the month of June, July, August, whatever. Just accept, and whatever comes. It's going to be what
Because
we need.
worrying is not going to make a single bit of difference.
But it makes me sleep better at night. No, it really doesn't.
No.
So, yeah.
It just jacks your system
Right.
up.
It does. It does.
But there was a good example that I wanted to bring up about how we have different tiers and different things, and we offer free things. So there's a gentleman that I know, and we've done a reading for him a while back. But anyway, he reached out recently via email, and he said his cat had something going on health-wise. And, if we could ask the collective, or did we have any opinion or any insight or whatever.
Mhm.
So I said, well, we have a couple of options. You can either, during our free monthly channeling, we can ask one question and maybe you'll get the answer that you need, because a lot of times animals with issues, health problems or behavior problems or whatever, it takes a while to dig into it and to do some healing work. So I said, we can ask one question and see what comes forth, or you can go ahead and pay for a 30-minute pet channeling, in which we'll probably get a lot more detailed information and maybe some healing work as well. Or you can just go ahead and ask the question and then decide if you want to go
Right.
forward with a. So he was like, yeah, money's kind of tight. I think I'll just ask the one question. So at least I didn't have to turn him down.
Mm-hmm.
He can't afford a full session right now, but we can certainly ask and see what can come through to help. And then, at a later date, if we feel that we want to do a pro bono session, which we sometimes do, or if I want to trade with him and maybe he can do some energy work for us or something like that, we can do that. We have those options. It doesn't have to be you pay me and I do something for you. It can also be trading.
Pay it forward.
Pay it
We've
forward.
done
We do
that
a
before.
lot
We
with
do
our
that,
Reiki
yep.
students.
Yep.
We offer a full scholarship for Reiki level 1 for all veterans, so that they can do self-healing.
Yep.
And we offer a 50% scholarship for their spouses so that they can work on each other.
And we always let them know that, just because you got a scholarship for this doesn't mean you're off the hook. We would like you to pay this forward to your fellow veterans or your family or something by utilizing the skill you just learned. So,
Which brings up another point, and that is when you give people things for free, they often don't value it, right? Is that what you were going to say?
But it's a very psychological.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
like that has been studied and
Right.
noted, and
Yeah.
that's a lot of reason why it's you. There's some like courses that you want it to be almost painful for the person to spend the money on it, because then they're like, I'm gonna make the most out of this. And I've seen people who've spent $6,000-7,000 and just walk away like, oh, this is too tough. And you're just going, you did what? Like it's just unbelievable. But if they just pay 35, 75, whatever, it is easier to walk away. And the thing is, we're showing up ready to teach, ready to instruct, ready to do whatever. We're giving of our time. And the last thing I want to do is give this wealth of information. Granted, they've come to me like it's a whole relationship thing. So they've been guided to me, and I'm, giving them this information, and they just turn around and do nothing with it.
Yeah.
And you just sit there and go, what's the purpose?
Right.
We want the information to be utilized, and people tend to take it more seriously when there's that
An investment of
value.
some
Oh,
sort.
Right. The value. And that's the thing is
So-
what is value? Yeah.
And our thought was when we offered these scholarships was you've served your country.
Yeah.
You've served us by being in the military. We want to serve you by offering you this. But at the same time, pay this forward.
Yeah.
Train, give some free Reiki sessions or whatever.
Yeah.
And, pay it forward.
Yeah.
I like that
That makes
idea
sense.
of balance.
The hard thing I find is people who, practitioners who, or I mean, it could be people from all kinds of different walks of life. It could be a musician, whoever. And you go and utilize their services. And I mean, I've said this before. It's like, honey, you're not charging enough, and it's like, I give them a little bit more because
Yeah.
you're just sitting there going,
Sure.
what are you even thinking? This was really incredible.
Right.
And that's, I think that when you meet someone like that, as someone in this field, especially, that when you come across someone like that, not thinking, oh, gee, I just got a deal, but instead
Right.
recognize that they don't understand the value of themselves yet, and
Yep.
to honor it and to give them more to get them to recognize their value.
Samantha,
help
that
each
is
other
a
out.
great point. Thank you for bringing that
Yeah.
up. That really
Wow.
that is
Yeah.
really important.
It's-
You're right. And instead of coming away going, oh yeah, I just kind of ripped them
'cause
off,
that's
or I just got a
not
good
what this
deal.
is all
Right,
about.
right.
No, that's not the good energy. And this has happened a couple of times. The girl that did my tattoo, she would charge $25 for these sigils or these
Yeah. Big. I don't know. You can't see it.
where
but
she actually is going into a trance
meditative
type
state,
of
yeah.
state and
Are you
downloading
serious?
these things for you.
Okay, I hope she watches this so she
20
realizes that
$25. I always paid her
Yeah.
at least double.
Yeah. If not
And
more. Yeah.
same with the little girl that does my hair in Virginia in the mountains. I mean, it's like $60 for a haircut in Charleston.
Yeah.
She charged me $24. I was like, and she spent an hour on my hair. It was great. And I gave her like a tip that was double that amount. I mean, I paid almost the same amount because I just,
Yeah.
And that's tithing.
Yeah,
And
I mean-
I think she loves me. I'm her favorite customer
Sure.
now.
But it's that whole thing of, reminding someone that their self-worth is so much greater.
Well, they're just, and I can speak from experience. It comes from not trusting your skill level.
yeah.
You just don't have the trust in yourself that you're providing an adequate service. So you're going to charge less. And and there's nobody in the world that's going to show you your own skill level. You have to come to the point of trusting and surrendering to what your gift is. If you can't trust and surrender to what your gift is, then you're always going to be on that lower tier of understanding. Because it's you could be the most gifted, talented spiritual practitioner, but if you don't trust that you're giving an adequate product, or that the information that's coming through is fully embodied, you're still gonna be like, well,
Yeah, you're
25
never going to
bucks.
really make it.
For those that are starting out, you can ask a trusted, experienced person, give them a session and ask them, like we did that with Candace Craw Goldman. We started out with our pet sessions and we had no idea what to charge for them. And we, for a 30-minute session, started charging $75. And she goes, I think it's worth more than that. And I said, well,
We
how about 111? And she goes, yeah, I think that's fair. And then after about a year or so, we raised it to 125, and we think that's a good holding point. But yeah, so she was a person who was in a good position to be able to tell us.
And that brings up a really good point is as a new practitioner, it's important to find those trusted allies to work with. Give free sessions to much more experienced people in your field.
And get valuable feedback.
Don't feel uncomfortable about it.
Get the feedback.
Get the feedback, because that's the only way you're going to really start that trusting process of yourself.
Mhm.
Because in that trusting process is growth. And in that growth process, it only exemplifies what you're doing. So,
Well, and what I would add to that is that, in talking specifically in this field of study or industry, whatever you want to call it, that it is important. Like the very essence of this is that you are going within and listening to yourself and your higher self, listening to your guides. And so, as a part of that, clearing out, these things that, these mental blocks that you're less than, you're not good enough, whatever, that has to happen. So I would say, doing the work on yourself to clear away that stuff. And then secondly, really listening to what your body's telling you, doing the calibration, what feels right. And don't ever ask for more than what you're comfortable receiving at any given time, because then it just won't happen. You won't get the readings. It's like you've asked too much. Yeah. So you've got to ask for what feels comfortable, and you got to keep clearing away doubts that make you feel like you aren't worth it. And so going through that process, you'll just ladder up. And it makes sense to do that too, because your skills get refined. You learn more skills. You have more ability as you go along. So, jumping to that higher level is kind of little pretentious, whereas, going through the process and feeling it out makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And the only thing I would add also is a lot of us automatically assume we have this block with money or manifesting or something, but also it can be a block to success.
Yes.
Our friend Maria brought this up and it really hit home. It made a lot of sense, is that if you visualize yourself in this very successful space, is that frightening to you? And if so, work on clearing that fear of success. We just talked about this with a guest that's coming up. And we said, like Marianne Williamson said, often we're not afraid of failing. We're afraid of being a success.
Yeah.
We're afraid of what that would bring to us or what that would look like, right?
Well, success to me is that all of a sudden my time's not my own. Everybody who I've seen is really successful. They work their asses off. And quite frankly, that is not how I want to live my life. And so I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to just play it small. And then I realized I got to stop looking at it that way, that it's just, I would, first off, what am I calling success? And for me, it's having this ease in my life so that I don't feel stressed out over it, and meeting my clients where they are and just kind of having a balance. Again, that's why I wanted to do the group coaching, because that was, I was starting to think, oh my God, 2 clients every day, every day of the week and all that kind of stuff. And I was just getting,
when it starts to become work, that's when it becomes not any fun anymore. Right?
Well, okay. So I went up with a girlfriend of mine to Lilydale. Yeah. And I'm thinking, these women, they're, these intuitive psychics, mediums, whatever, they're the bomb, right?
Yeah.
And of course, none of them were available. They were back to back with appointments. And they were seeing people every half hour to an hour.
Wow.
And I was like, complete burnout. No way would I live that's old paradigm. There's no way I was going to do that. We were in a crystal shop, and my friend stood outside, and it was kind of raining. So there's a couple of people standing around her, and this woman comes, like, she sees her up on this hill, walk out and come down. And the friends are like, what's she doing? I thought she was in her reading. She comes down and she's just like, I can't believe I paid, that money for that reading, because she was just so off. Like, it was just like, what was the point? And I thought, you know what, your work suffers if you sit there. So here's the other thing, if you sit there and think, I gotta,
perform.
Yeah. Have all these people, I don't want to do more than 2 readings in a day. That would wipe me out. So so there's the balance of how much am I going to charge so that I am the very best I can be for the next person. So that is a factor that goes into what I charge and how I'm constructing my business as well, because people who are seeing, 10 people a day, I don't know how you're doing it. And because in mediumship, especially, it's like, how many little old haired ladies do you see? Gray haired ladies. And so it begins to literally
Blur
blend.
together, yeah.
And you're just kind of going, oh dear God.
Was that last
It's-
guy,
yeah.
last client's person?
Yeah, are they still here in the room? Right. No, I get that. you know.
It's just, yeah.
And we've had that discussion too, is, of success. What does success look like? And at what point do we, because you've asked me before, well, how many personal channeling sessions do you think you could do in a day? I'm like, it's not about how many I can do in a day. It's about how effective I can be for that client.
Mhm.
If I rack them and stack them, the first one's going to get the best sessions of them all, because it's going to have 100% of my energy. Then I have to allocate
Rev it
smaller
up,
percentages
yeah.
of energy towards the rest of the sessions. And I don't
Go
want to do
outside,
that.
stand in the grass.
So I, what we've come up with is, if you want to do one in the morning, early morning, and then do one in the, late afternoon, at least I've got
Two
enough,
max if we need to.
right.
If we need to.
That way I've got enough time to unwind and unpack from the first client,
Mhm.
rebuild my energy, rebuild my center, and then I'm good to go for the second
And
one.
the only other thing I would say then about when to up your price is, if you are so busy that you have a long waiting list, like a medium friend we know around here,
Yep.
she upped her price when her waiting list was 4 to 6 months or
When
whatever.
when she was doing sessions
So if
every
there's such
hour and
a-
a half.
Excuse me,
throughout
such
the
a
day.
high demand.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and at that point, what
Excuse
you're
me.
doing is you're opening that what I was mentioning before, at a certain price point, you're dipping into another clientele set,
Yeah.
so it's-
Exactly. That
you're
makes
shifting,
sense.
you're jumping rungs on the ladder to get to another clientele.
Well, and
set.
sometimes raising the price is the only way to get it into a manageable
Yeah.
place where you have downtime and time to
Yeah.
chill.
Well, I'll say one other thing with figuring all of that out is it also depends on what kind of work you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, I know I could do 2 readings in a day, and I could do a life coaching session.
Yeah.
Because energetically, I'm in a different space with that.
Yeah.
Or if I did 2 readings and then I did tarot, which
Right.
I haven't done in a long time, and I've had people say, "Oh, teach us tarot," and I'm like going, "Okay, maybe I'll do that." But it's when I do tarot, it's like no brainer. Like I'm totally not thinking. It's
Right.
just everything's just kind of
Automatic.
blah, 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 to me, it's like crutches, it's like it makes it a lot easier. But I don't feel like it's as profound a reading.
Sure.
So I don't, just in my personal experience, you touch on a lot of things, but it's not like going down the rabbit trail.
But
deeply.
it's not profound to you because
Oh, well, yes.
you're attenuated to it now.
Yeah.
When you first started doing tarot, it was profound. Now you're doing other aspects, right? So in that paradigm of what you
changes.
do, but the client is getting the profound information.
Yes.
So
yes.
yeah. No,
it's so
I
funny
get
how
it.
we look at it, because it's
Yeah.
so much easier now for me to do that.
Right.
So I'm sitting there going, well, I shouldn't charge as much because it's so easy. But yeah, I kind of wasn't thinking of it like that,
Yeah.
huh?
See, we're
Yeah,
learning. We
it's-
still learn too. We still learn.
And you change them around. And when you're feeling like for me, if I feel like, and I've done this a couple of times, when I'm feeling off,
Yeah.
going through a slump or whatever, I'll offer discounts or something just because I know that my energy is a little bit lower. I'm still going to provide what the client needs, because they wouldn't be coming to me
Right. Yeah.
unless there was some important information that needed to be exchanged. But I just know that I'm sitting back. I'm going to take it a little bit easier.
Sure.
I think I still perform the same way. It's more it's the head game.
It's the
Conscious-
human.
it's
It's the
literally-
human brain. I mean, I
Right.
agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I mean, it's there are days, and this is we talk open and honestly around here. There are days that we have clients and we're signed up for a client, and all leading up to it, up to that afternoon, just like
Didn't sleep well.
yeah,
got out of
I'm
it.
not feeling dialed in, and blah 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 blah.
Mhm.
And I come up here a half an hour before, get the room set up, and I do my connection with my guides, and I connect with their higher self. And there's something that takes place at that moment that
Yeah.
I connect to their higher self,
It's
even
like,
before the
yep,
session even
showtime.
starts. Yeah,
Right,
and it's like
right.
they're all lined up, ready to go, and we're like, hey, we're here. You don't have to do a thing. All you have to do is just check out. We're going to step in and handle it. I'm like, okay, good. I'm glad because my body just doesn't feel it right now.
So
So
I
yeah.
have to make a little bit more effort than that. But
Yeah.
Well, all of that being said, hopefully we answered your questions, Christina. And it goes to show you that if you want to see a certain topic on an episode, or you have some feedback for us, or anything we can do better, or give you more information about, please put that in the comments. We read the comments. We appreciate that. And we appreciate our consistent viewers. Thank you so much. Please like and share if you found this valuable. Subscribe if you want, or hit the notification bell. But we, as always, thank you so much for spending your hour with us. And until next time, thanks for viewing.
Have a good one. See you. Bye.